There's a Brandon on the trade block and there's a Brandon on waivers. Do the Blue Jackets need to add a Brandon to their lineup to increase the vibes per 60 that are already pretty high? We talk about that on today's Locked on Blue Jackets.
You're Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. The trade deadline is approaching. It's, I think, like 5 weeks away now. And the rumors are rumoring. The Blue Jackets have been linked with Brandon Tanev of the Seattle Kraken. People are still making noise about potentially the Vancouver Canucks moving on from one or both of Pedersen and Miller, and the Blue Jackets they've done their due diligence there, but I don't see that happening. And Brandon Saad has just been put on waivers as well, and so I thought, let's talk about, do the Blue Jackets need to add a Brandon to their lineup? They haven't had one since Brandon Dubinsky, I don't think. They had a Brendan last year, but the Blue Jackets maybe need to diversify their naming. No, I'm mostly joking, but I saw that Brandon Saad was on waivers. I saw that Brandon Tanev was potentially available for the Blue Jackets, and I thought I'd talk about, like, would either of these players improve this team, basically? And that's kind of where I'm standing right now in terms of, like, picking up players. There's a lot of talk about, like, well, the Blue Jackets need to be rewarded for their efforts so far this season with, like, a trade deadline acquisition or something like that. But what I'm looking at is mostly, okay, who on this team is not as good as Brandon Tanev, for example? That was the first thing that came out. People were like, oh yeah, Blue Jackets are in conversation with the Kraken about Brandon Tanev. Is there someone on the fourth line worse than Brandon Tanev right now? Because that's kind of where he's sitting, in my estimation. He's got 15 points on the season. He's got 173 points in 522 career games. He is 33 years old and is on an expiring deal. I'm just looking up how much he is making right now. Not that cap is really an issue for the Blue Jackets, but the more expensive he is, the less the Blue Jackets will have to pay to get him. He's making $3.5 million until the end of the season. So, like, not a backbreaking amount. And honestly, the Blue Jackets can probably say, hey, we'll take the full contract, but we'll give you less. So does he fit into the Blue Jackets lineup? On paper, yes. He plays the style of game that is very kind of, I call it kind of Tasmanian Devil style. He just kind of runs around and crashes and bangs and is generally kind of a pain in the butt to deal with. Blue Jackets have a lot of guys like that, but it does make sense that people are saying, well, Tanev would fit in perfectly with the style of play that Dean Everson is having the Blue Jackets playing right now. What do you give up for Brandon Tanev is a question, and also, is he better, like, in the Blue Jackets lineup right now? And you have to assume that down the line they're going to get Jenner back, they're going to get Chinikov back, they're going to get Sillinger back, they're going to get Monahan back. When you look at, like, a perfectly healthy Blue Jackets lineup, is there space for Brandon Tanev that to make him a better option than what the Blue Jackets are rolling with right now? So let me just pull up what the Blue Jackets are in fact rolling with right now, because there are lines at Morning Skate that I had and lost. My point being here, while I look something up on Twitter, is, here we go. So right now, The Blue Jackets have a lineup of Voronkov, Fantilli, Marchenko, JVR, Stillinger, Ken Johnson, Zach Aston Reese, Luca Del Barbaluz, Matthew Olivier, Miguel Pucher, Sean Corrali, just a Danforth. Then they've got extras, Kevin LeBanc and Boone Jenner, and then you add Chinikov and Monahan in there as well. So you have to think that when Chinikov and Monahan return, probably Pucher and Del Barbaluz are the odd guys out there. So is Brandon Tanev a better option than, for example, and he's a winger as well, so like you've got to figure that there's really like Corrali's going to keep his spot, and you know your wingers your centers down the middle will be Monahan, Fantilli, Sillinger, Corrali, which is not a terrible center depth lineup, you know. So you've got to look at like the bottom six wingers. So there's really only 4 places that Brandon Tanev could play. Arguably only 2, because for my money, he's a fourth liner that is potentially available to play further up in the lineup. I probably wouldn't do it. But you look at the bottom 6 wingers that the Blue Jackets have, and again, with the reintroduction of Chinikov and Jenner, you've got to think that your bottom 6 is going to be Aston Reese, Van Riemsdyk, Olivier, Danforth, Jenner. You know, like you've got to, and then arguably one of those guys, probably Aston Reese, is going to be out of the lineup when you bring Chinikov back in as well. So like your bottom 4 is going to be Jenner, JVR, Olivier, Danforth. Is Brandon Tanev a better option than any of those 4 guys? Like potentially a better option than JVR. Although, you know, credit to JVR, he's having a really good month, and he is, again, he's doing the Del Barbaluz thing of he's got this opportunity. He's playing with 2 young, talented players, and he's thriving there. When Chinikov comes back, my guess is that he slots back into that Chinikov or Jenner. I would do Chinikov. Everson might do Jenner just because of the style of play that's happening right now. But if like you can't put JVR into the top 6 over both of those guys, you know. Would you rather have Brandon Tanev or would you rather have James Van Riemsdyk? You know, and then you have to factor in what do you give up for Brandon Tanev? Now, again, he's making 3.5 million this year. He's 33 years old, and he has 15 points in 49 games so far this season, 8 goals, which for context, in regards to the Blue Jackets and scoring, I'm just going to pull up what their scoring is like at the minute. He has more points than, if I can get this to sort via points, at 15 points, he's got more than Chinikov, who's only played 21 games so far this season, so we're going to discount him. In terms of forwards, he's got more points than Kevin LeBanc, Sean Corrali, Zach Aston Reese, Justin Danforth, who's only played 29 games, Del Barbaluz, who's only played 9 games, Pucher's played 40, James Malatesta's played 2, Owen Sillinger's played 1. And that's it. So, like, do you put him in? And again, you've got to think that Corrali specifically is going to keep his spot in the lineup. My guess is Danforth keeps his spot in the lineup. Again, he's only played 29 games, and he's only got 6 fewer points than Tanev this season. So, like, do you put him in the lineup over Aston Reese, who has 11 points in 49 games, but plays a similar game to Tanev, but is a little bit smaller? I don't know. You know, that's kind of where I'm sitting at right now. Is would you rather have Zach Aston Reese in the lineup? Would you rather have Brandon Tanev in the lineup? Bearing in mind that you're going to have to give something up to get Tanev. My guess is it'll probably be a mid-round pick, which the Blue Jackets are like not super flush with, but they do have a not a surplus of picks, but their draft pick situation right now, they have 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, 2 fourths, a 6th and 2 7th this year. Next year, they've got a first, 2/3, 3/4, a first, a second, and a fifth, 2/6, and a seventh. Yeah, after that, 1/3. So we're in 2027 now. 1/1, 2 seconds, 2/3, and then they've got their own 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks. So like, if you can get this done for next year's 3rd round pick, I might do it. But I also am sitting here like, will he be one of the you go out and you trade for him? Will he be one of the 12 best forwards that the Blue Jackets have? Will he be one of the 13 best forwards that the Blue Jackets have? And I'm just not really sure about that. In contrast, let's take a quick break, and then I want to talk about a different Brandon. Brandon Saad, who Blue Jackets fans will remember for the 5 minutes that he was with us. Let's talk about him. Is he worth the Blue Jackets taking a punt on? And we'll talk about why he might be and why he might not be in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that is the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's talk about a different Brandon. A Brandon that many of us will be more familiar with. So Brandon Saad was put on waivers today by the St. Louis Blues. He has 16 points in 43 games so far this season. Hasn't scored in a minute here. He hasn't scored since January 3rd, where he had a hat trick. Hat trick versus Ottawa, and then has gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 games without a goal, only 3 assists in that time as well. So makes sense. His ice time has been declining. I was still kind of surprised by this because even, Brandon Saad, what is he, 32? I still feel like he should be a pretty good player. I am biased because I liked Brandon Saad a lot when he was with the Blue Jackets back in, God, when was it? 2015-16 and 2016-17. He had 53 points in both seasons for the Blue Jackets, so 106 points over 2 seasons, which is pretty good. He was an all-star for one of those seasons, and in one of those seasons, I believe he was like one of 2 players that played all 82 games. And he's been, for the first part of his career, he has been remarkably durable. Second half of his career as well, actually. So, I don't know if he's missed more than 5 games a season in his entire career, which is really impressive. He's just hit 900 games a couple of weeks ago, which again, impressive. I still think there might be something in the tank with Saad. He had 42 points a season ago in 82 games, 26 goals. He's got 9 straight double-digit goal seasons going all the way back to his rookie season with Chicago. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 20-goal seasons under his belt, and then he had 19, 18, 19 in 3 more seasons. The drop-off this year has been sharp, and I'm unsure if that is due to usage, whether that is due to the team underperforming, whether that is due to him very suddenly getting old. 32 is not the oldest age in the entire world. I say as someone who very recently turned 32 years old. But it is the age where players start declining, So the other thing you have to consider as well is his cap hit. He is making, I believe, 4.5 million. So Brandon Saad is making 4.5 million this season and next season. That's key here. The Blue Jackets won't have to give anything up for him, but they will be on the hook for that $4.5 million. And again, the Blue Jackets have approximately $1 billion in cap space. They currently have $85 million of deadline cap space, which is very funny. Their current cap space is at $44 million. Of the $88 million cap hit, they're currently at $69.25 million. So $4 million above the cap floor. So yeah, they have they've got some breathing room there. However, you've got to think some players are going to need raises this season. So Sean Corrali, I think, is gone. Mathieu Olivier is going to get a raise. Justin Danforth, I think, will be back. Voronkov is going to get a raise. His entry-level deal finishes this season. Mikhail Pucha needs a new contract. I don't imagine, he'll probably get a little bit of a raise, but nothing that breaks the bank. Van Riemsdyk and LeBanc, I think, will both be departing. Dante Fabro needs a new contract. And then, what do you do with Ivan Provorov, Jordan Harris, Jack Johnson, who all need new contracts as well? Neil Tarasov needs a new contract. And then in two guys that are non-roster forwards right now, Trevor Zolansky needs a new contract. Owen Sillinger needs a new contract. Damon Hunt needs a new contract. No, Jack Greaves doesn't need a new contract. But the point here is the Blue Jackets don't have infinite cap space to play with, but if they think that they could kind of get something out of Brandon Saad, I wouldn't hate this waivers pickup, I don't think. I think I would rather they did this than picking up Brandon Tanev, just because they don't have to give anything up. I think he has more in the tank than Tanev. I think his style of play will also work pretty well with Everson. I think he is an upgrade in the bottom six right now. I personally would take Brandon Saad probably over I would take Brandon Saad over Van Riemsdyk. I would take him over Aston Reese probably. I would take him over LeBanc definitely. I would potentially take him over Justin Danforth. I think there's a place in the lineup for him, and money isn't really a factor here. Again, Blue Jackets have not infinite cap space, but they have enough. And by the time his contract is up, which is the end of next season, so the end of 25-26, this is when the Blue Jackets are going to have to figure things out, because at the end of that offseason, in that offseason, Boone Jenner's contract is up, Cole Sillinger's contract is up, Igor Chinakov's contract is up, Adam Fantilli's entry level is up, Zach Aston Reese needs a new contract, and that's about it. But those are some pricey contracts. Yeah, Fantilli one especially, I think is gonna be big. So he fits the timeline. He doesn't break the bank. If he doesn't work, then throw him back on waivers. It's not like it's not as similar to the Dante Fabro situation, but the Blue Jackets had nothing to lose with picking up Dante Fabro, and I feel like they have nothing to lose picking up Brandon Saad, So I personally would do this. I don't know if it's super likely that the team does this, but we've seen all season long that Don Waddell is ready and willing to pick players up on waivers if it thinks that they can add to the team. Again, Dante Fabro, waivers pickup. Zach Aston Reese, waivers pickup. There's someone else I'm forgetting that I feel like was a waivers pickup, but Van Riemsdyk and Kevin LeBanc were on PTOs with other teams that then they turned into an NHL contract with the Blue Jackets. So again, there's Don Waddell is happy to add to this team if he thinks it'll make it better. I personally would take Saad over Tanev. If the Blue Jackets need to add a Brandon, which again, they don't need to add a Brandon. That was just the way that I decided to frame this, because I thought it was funny that there were two Brandons, one with history with the Blue Jackets and one that has been linked to the Blue Jackets, that were both available within kind of a 12-hour period here. But I had to pick one. I'd probably go Saad. The contract isn't ideal, but is not the worst thing in the world. I personally don't think I would give up the kind of assets that the Kraken will likely get from a guy like Tanev. But again, I don't know that the Blue Jackets do either of these things because, like I said, and like I've kind of been saying for a couple of weeks, like this team is going to get some players back in the next couple of weeks for their hopefully for their playoff run. You know, Monahan is going to be back in 6 weeks. Boone Jenner should be back in 2 weeks. Chinikov is coming back. They might get Eric Branson back. Maybe that's a big question mark. But like, if you look at Monahan, Chinikov, Jenner as your trade deadline acquisitions, like I don't think that they need to go out and add. You know, would I like another scoring middle six winger? Sure, but I don't think it's something like none of the guys available are going to be that. Unless you want to go out and get Brock Besser, which I would very much like. Not a Brandon, but a very good player, is coming out of a stressful, I would imagine, situation in Vancouver where the two top centers can't stop fighting and it's making everyone else miserable. Come to the Blue Jackets. The vibes are good. We have $1 billion that we can give you. I like Brock Besser a lot. I think that would be fun. I would want an extension in place if they were to trade for him, probably. But apart from that, like I don't know that the Blue Jackets need to add, you know. But I also like the closer we get to the deadline, the more I'm like, oh, maybe they don't sell at the deadline. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to take another quick break, and then we have got some injury updates, which is that Cole Sillinger is hopefully going to be back versus Vegas. So I'm going to talk about what that does to the lineup and how promising the center depth continues to look. So we'll do that in just a second here in Locked On Blue Jackets. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Cole Sillinger has missed 3 games with an upper body injury, blocked a shot in his most recent game with his hand, and apparently it just got real swollen and real painful. No fractures, nothing like that, but it sounds like he's basically been on the cusp of coming back. I can't remember who it was. Dean Everson potentially said that he was really close to being cleared for the first game he missed, and then I guess they realized that they probably didn't need to like rush him back. So we got a couple more games. Obviously, the Blue Jackets haven't played since Saturday and don't play until Thursday. So there's like 5 days of rest and not doing anything. They didn't like none of them were at the rink yesterday, which was a very funny quote from Zach Aston Reese where someone asked, "Hey, what did you do on your day off?" And he was like, "Oh, I went to get my dry cleaning," which is such a mood, honestly. Because I don't know about you, but like when I have a day off, I inevitably I'm like, man, I gotta do laundry, I gotta change my sheets, I gotta like go to the store and get groceries. Like NHL players, they're just like us. But Cole Sillinger is it looks like he's gonna be back. He has slotted back into the lineups at practice today. So he's back between JVR and Kent Johnson. Delbar Blues has slid down to between Aston Reese and Olivier, which I like that line a lot. Again, I think that line is going to be a pain in the butt to deal with. A real energy line that can also add some scoring. It's been a minute since Olivier got a goal. I would like to see another one or two or several. But looks like Sillinger's going to be back in on Thursday. He's coming on the trip, and all looks good. Dante Fabro did miss practice. Apparently, he's sick. My guess is he probably got what Denton Matejchuk and Cole Sillinger had over the past couple of weeks. It's that time of the year. It's going round. Likely that he plays on Thursday, if for no other reason that he was being filled in for by Jack Johnson, which I read the tweet and for a minute was like, what is happening? Because I looked at the defense pairings and it was Werenski, Jack Johnson, Matejchuk, Provorov, Christensen, Severson, and I was like, wait. But Fabro, feeling under the weather, missed practice today. Hopefully we'll be ready to go against Vegas on Thursday. And again, like the Blue Jackets getting guys back is good. Jenner's been skating with the team. I don't think he's taking full contact yet, but hopefully soon. Again, they've got, I think, 6 games until the Four Nations break, and then basically 2 full weeks off. I think it's like a 13-day break or something like that. So plenty of time for Jenna and Chinikov specifically to keep resting, keep getting better. And we'll see what happens, you know? So it's looking good. It's looking promising. Blue Jackets are getting healthier. You love to see it. We're not going to talk about the Vegas game yet because it's still a ways off. That's going to be a tomorrow episode job or a Thursday episode job potentially. I did want to check in real briefly with the wildcard standings because the Blue Jackets are still hanging in there. They got some scoreboard luck last night. The Devils lost to the Flyers in regulation, which means that the Flyers are creeping up, but the Devils didn't gain any ground on the Blue Jackets, and they are now 7 points ahead with 2 games in hand of the Blue Jackets, which is exciting. Third place continues to look attainable. Pittsburgh also lost in regulation against the Sharks. However, Detroit did win in regulation versus the Kings. So thanks for nothing, LA. And the standings continue to look very much in the Blue Jackets' favor. So Boston and Tampa Bay still occupy the wildcard spots with 56 and 55 points. Blue Jackets sitting there with 55 points. Then with 53 points, you've got Montreal and Detroit. You've got the Rangers and the Flyers at 52. The Islanders at 49. The Penguins at 48. And we're ignoring the Buffalo Sabres. It's looking promising. In terms of scoreboard watching tonight, the Bruins are playing Buffalo. The Canadiens are playing Winnipeg. The Rangers are playing the Hurricanes. The Islanders are playing the Avalanche. And I think that's it for tonight's games. So we could really do with a Buffalo regulation win, which seems ambitious. A Winnipeg win, which seems much less ambitious. A Carolina win, a Avalanche win. Both of those seem doable as well. So we could do that. Like, that could be, again, it could be a very favorable night for the Blue Jackets on the schedule. So we'll do some scoreboard watching. We'll hang out. Hopefully, the Blue Jackets will still be in pretty good shape when they return to play on Thursday against Vegas. That's all I've got for today. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Locked On Blue Jackets. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. Comments, questions, criticisms, send them to lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day every single day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I forgot what my outro spiel was there. It's been a day. Thank you once again for listening. Until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.